I didn't know a millionaire idea. I thought I have $1 billion idea. I didn't come with just like a million.
Perfect.
Just $1 million
Perfect.
one. So
The Billionaires Idea Vault.
choosing what kind of industry, you probably want to start with the places where there's a huge profitability right away, right? And so if you go into an organization and say, hey, we can save you $40 million.
I agree with Aydin that it is $1 billion opportunity. And or more. And one of the first things that came to mind when you started talking about this, I was like, well, why wouldn't a Deloitte just do it, or why wouldn't a McKinsey or whatever?
This is the disruptor to Deloitte,
and this is
though.
this is the
new
disruptor.
Deloitte. Yeah,
and that's
Deloitte
what
will try and buy it.
Welcome to the Millionaires Idea Vault Show, where we interview successful entrepreneurs for them to give away their best business idea, and together we workshop the idea live on the show. And we don't know what the idea is before they show up on the show.
Yeah. Oh, and one more thing: if you want to get the most out of the show, make sure you download all the documents prepared with the links below, so you get access to the business plan, pitch decks, worksheets. Sounds good? See you in the show. Peace. Welcome everyone here to another episode of the Millionaires Idea Vault, where proven successful entrepreneurs gift away an idea that we think is pretty awesome, and then we jam out a roadmap and a blueprint so y'all people can take it and run with it.
I didn't know a millionaire idea. I thought I have $1 billion idea. I didn't come with just like a $1 million one. So
The Billionaires
Funny
Idea
you
Vault.
said that because we do have the Billionaires Idea Vault show as well. So welcome to the Billionaires Idea Vault show. And
That's right. That's right. Pivot.
Yeah, we're gonna pivot right now. Launch that URL that we've always owned, and yes, so welcome. This is where billionaires or millionaires or proven successful entrepreneurs give billionaire ideas for you to run away with. So let's rock. Today we have incredible guests. It's one of those shows where I get to be quiet and just watch and learn.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
that's
going to be
for
quiet
sure.
too. We'll just
Pretty
watch.
much every show, actually, to be honest. But our main guest here is Mr. Aydin Mirzaee, who will introduce himself in a little bit. We'll ask you to give a bit of a bio. And as we all know, we always have a surprise guest. And this surprise guest represents one of our board of advisors. And we have Mr. Graham Barlow here. Thank you for joining us again. Love having you back. And my beloved co-host, Mr. Richard Isaac. Thank you for joining us today as well.
Always.
And let's start with a bit of an intro. Aydin, you want to give a bit of a quick summary of who you are, and then Barlow yourself, Mr. Barlow yourself. We're on a last name basis now.
Mr. Barlow.
Yeah. And then we'll get into this idea. idea.
So I'm Aydin, and I'm co-founder and CEO of a company called Fellow. We make meeting management software, helping the world's companies spend less time in meetings and make all their meeting time productive. That's our mission. It's a big mission. It's a global mission. And I've been an entrepreneur for, I want to say 20 years or something like that. And prior to that, I had an online survey company that we sold to SurveyMonkey. And just in general, been doing software startup stuff for a long time.
Sick. Awesome. Thank you. Mr. Barlow, please.
Thank you. I've been a serial entrepreneur for about 25 years, built and sold a number of technology companies. Today, CEO of a company called Iversoft. We build software for companies all over the world and get to jam out for cool ideas on shows like this.
Awesome. Thank you. Mr. Richard, I love it when you start this part here.
I'm going to kick it off, and now I'm excited because it's $1 billion idea potentially.
Yeah.
So Aydin, the way I like to ask the question is not what is the idea right away, but what is the annoyance or business problem or something that you came across that sort of sparked this idea? And then maybe talk about that a little bit, and then tell us what the idea is.
Yeah, great framing. So a couple of things. So I think it was in November 2022 when ChatGPT came out and everybody was just talking about AI. It just became the most important thing overnight. I remember I was watching TV with my wife when ChatGPT came out or was kind of released to the public. And I was like on my phone the whole time, and my co-founders were on like their phones, and we're all trying this thing. And she's like, "Why aren't you watching the show?" I'm like, "You don't understand. The world just changed. Like it was this huge milestone." And the thing was that there was those that were excited early on, and then there was everybody else that wasn't as excited. And one of the funny things for me actually was a lot of the software developers, a lot of the engineers were part of the people that were less excited because they were like, oh yeah, like we know how it works. We know the limitations. You business people don't really understand. And so that's why you get excited and you think it's magic, but it's really not. It's just numbers and statistics. And, and so it was very interesting. And so one of my observations was that I think this is going to change the world. And but we have to change with it. We have to change our company. We have to change the way that we're doing things. And this was something that in talking to peer CEOs, I'm sure Graham can relate. It's like you want everybody in your company to start to think differently, to experiment with AI and to try different things. But it's really hard to get them to do that, right? They'll nod their heads. They'll say like, yeah, we're going to check it out, and maybe we'll try a tool from now and again. But really trying to get your company to change and use these new technologies has been a difficult problem. So that's kind of like where the seed of the idea started, which was how do you transform your company to start to really care about AI? How do you know that you're using the cutting edge in everything that you do? And it's a problem. I think it's something that we all struggle with. So that was probably like the first place where the seeds of this idea comes from. The second one was I noticed that my conversations were changing with all of my peer CEOs. Every time we were getting together, one of the standing agenda items was, what are you doing in AI? Like, what are you doing in your product? What are you doing in each department? How is it working? What are you measuring? How are you getting people to react and like?
Have you replaced all your marketers yet?
What's happening? How are you thinking about hiring? It completely. This new AI topic is just so prevalent. It's like the most important thing to talk about because it's new. Everybody's experimenting, trying different things. And if you're not, you're falling behind. And so everybody also has this fear of like, oh my God, like what if I'm falling behind? What if my company won't exist because we didn't like get on this bandwagon early enough and take it seriously enough? And so it's just when it's a thing that you talk about with every single person that you meet, when it's a problem that everybody also says that they have, you kind of have to start to pay attention. So that's where it started.
Okay. And so what is the idea?
Yeah, so the idea itself. So what I wanted to say
because I agree with everything you've said so far. I still don't know what the idea is, though.
So the thing is that you have to. So this is a problem. I think we all agree this is a problem, right? Major problem. Every company in the world, every CEO of every company has it. So
and honestly, anybody who's in the workforce that really is thinking about the future is also thinking about
government,
this.
Nonprofit, everybody. So it's an everybody problem. Hence, $1 billion pivot to the $1 billion podcast.
New show,
but the question is like, how do people solve this today? Because it's always really important to talk about the alternatives. Like, what are other ways that you are trying to solve this problem? So if you're trying to change your company and get it to focus on, make sure that you're using AI in every part of your company, like traditionally, the methods are you either, designate a person, designate a group. This is a thing that a bunch of people have done in companies that I know. They've created like an AI council. One of actually my belief systems is that over the course of time, every company will have a chief AI officer or someone designated to be the head of AI in every single company because it starts to become so important. When remote work started to happen, a lot of the leading remote companies had like a head of remote, and this was a thing. So a lot of companies.
I'm changing my title.
It's a great title. So one is I think you're going to have this head of AI, but that's one way to solve the problem. You either take your current staff and you make it a mandate, and there's a council that's working on this stuff. Maybe you inject it in all of the departments. The other way that you can start to inject AI into your company is by strictly by using great products. So one example for is Intercom. Intercom is a customer support system. We use Intercom, have used Intercom for a long time. They just pivoted very hardcore, and now they're an AI first company. And so strictly by using Intercom, pretty good chunk of our business, which is customer support, is now taking this on. We're doing the same with Fellow. So Fellow is a meeting productivity platform. We are changing ourselves, reinventing ourselves, and becoming an AI first product. Meetings are a large surface area within a company. Up to 20% of your staff's time is spent on AI. So by using Fellow, you automatically inject AI into one of the largest surface areas that you have. So, the other one is like, by using these sorts of products. But the third one, which is a really important one, is, using an external party to come help you do those things, right? This starts to become so important. Using AI in the best way, that all of a sudden getting to the answer very quickly matters, right? Like if you flounder around for a long time versus get to an answer super quickly, it makes a huge difference. One thing that I wanted to mention, which is also relevant in terms of case studies, is Klarna made a bunch of news. They're that finance product, help you split payments, big company. And I actually took a screenshot of this so I could kind of repeat the stats. It's because it's pretty remarkable. So they built their own AI customer support agent, and it said that this was February 27, 2024, when they announced these results. So they had 2.3 million conversations, 2/3 of customer service chats at Klarna. It was the equivalent of 7 full-time people, and it basically saved them. It added $40 million of profit, to their bottom line strictly by doing that, right? And what's really interesting about this is Klarna is not a company building a customer support product. Like they just use AI to build this for themselves. The other one which was interesting is I was listening to Shopify's earnings call, their Q1 24 earnings call, and in there they talk about improving their cost of acquisition by 60% or something like that, strictly by using AI in the background, and like some of the things that they're running are actually making their campaigns that much more efficient. So, when you hear stuff like that and you're a company that's not seeing those sorts of results, you have massive FOMO, right? Like they are going to eat your lunch if you don't start to pay attention. So anyway, so enough context building. So the idea is a very basic one, but a super important one, is to build an AI first consulting company. And the job of this consulting company is to have, leading experts, and their job is to stay on top of what's going on, the latest and greatest products, the latest and greatest methodologies, expertise in different areas, like, whether it's e-commerce or it's, I don't know, like supply chain management or something else, having experts in those areas that really know what their job is to stay ahead of the curve, know what's going on in AI, so that they can be parachuted into any company and then help them actually drive the change management. So they're almost like your AI council that people are starting to create, but they're kind of like an AI council as a service. So that's the idea. There's like multiple layers to it, and I'm happy to go deeper into it, but that's I'll pause there maybe.
Oh, services companies. Services. But here's the thing. We do have the right panel for it. So here's what's interesting, Aydin. I've been running a services company for 20 years, and what I found in the services space is what's happening is, if you're selling experts, they're super high demand, but it's hard for services companies to scale just experts. But if you're selling like the middle tier, intermediate, like let's say doers, that's being super commoditized. So it's hard to make money doing that. And so what's nice about this business that you're proposing is it's just experts. So my question to you, or my first question to the group would be like, how would you find and build enough experts? Because here's the problem, my experience with experts anyway. You hire an expert, they're amazing at delivering that service, but an expert's always thinking like, I can do this myself. Right? So oftentimes we lose experts because they go and spin up their own, they're just a consultant now. They're a chief, we'll call it a fractional chief AI officer. So that would be like one of the biggest challenges that I see with this business. But I 100% agree with the framing of the need. And I think the opportunity is 100% there. If somebody can figure out how do you gather a group, how do you make sure that you can retain those people as they build that expertise?
Yeah. So I think what's amazing about service businesses that are more new, let's even taking where you're transitioning to, is that the composition of revenue is changing so much. There's so much new ways to grow your business. So yes, you have these experts, but these experts can also create other products out of their brain and their experience. For example, we are becoming an AI first expert in podcasts. We are creating software in the back end to maximize the value of each show. And the moment it becomes part of our automated marketing and community building, we're gonna package it and we're gonna plant it into other podcast shows, right? So at the same time, we can provide the expert services. At the same time, we could organize multi-million-dollar events. At the same time, we can do all these other different, products that's not directly related to services, right?
So that's super interesting. So I think what I'm hearing you say is for this to work, you need to have a different model to deliver and sell these services than the traditional services models that we've seen in the past, right? I'm just going to throw that out there. Like, I don't know if that is a fact. It's sort of like an assumption. What I mean by this is it's not like we go in and you pay for the hours of our expert being there. It's like a different model altogether, right? You're paying maybe a subscription fee to get access to certain material, to certain information. It's not just like a paid per hourly service.
Yeah. And the other thing is we had a surprise guest named Stuart. And he was on with, was it with you? Oh, no, who was Stuart on with?
With James.
James. This guy did a MIT AI course certification. He's doing one with Stanford right now. So his game in terms of understanding application at the enterprise level is next level.
Yeah.
Right? And he's, for example, if he's watching this show right now, he would be the ideal person, because we talk about who's the ideal person. He would be an ideal person to
launch something like this.
Combined with a guy, let's say a YouTuber named Matt Wolf or something. I don't know if you've seen this guy, but he's an AI YouTuber guy, or this other guy. I think he's called the AI guy, actually. And the AI guy. And I like the AI guy more than Matt Wolf in a different way, is the AI guy is all about application. So it's every week he says, here's how you could actually use AI, not just like, here's an update on the features, right? So the specific application. So how do we scale this? You know me, I'm all about niching down first, is figure out which area do you want to penetrate in terms of being an expert at if you picture in the big picture, I'm going to be I used to call us the fly team on the dental space, the fly team that's going to come into Aydin's company and poof, like we're going to implement processes, training, everything, and then growth with them as well, right? So it's software, certain. Sorry, you're gonna.
I'm 100% agreeing with you.
Yeah. So
right. It's sort of like the AI consultancy, kind of like the McKinsey of right. You know what I mean?
It's absolutely that. What's really interesting is I'm working with a very small company that is literally doing this in a niche right now, where it's a bunch of AI engineers that, again, we're kind of burnt out on the like knee-jerk back and forth, and so they've built a like drop-in AI. We will like bootstrap your accounting firm, and they're only looking at accounting firms under 50 people, and they will come in a month, add 1 million AI processes, add like a 60% efficiency, and then get out. And what's interesting is what they're struggling with is like they drop in, they make the changes, but then the sale after that is hard because they've already made the efficiency, and then it's like, can you do a 60% increase in efficiency every 3 months?
Right, there's diminishing returns for sure, yeah.
Because there's low-hanging fruit in a lot of companies for AI, but there's not necessarily the same multiplicative return every single time that you come in. And I think that's one of the interesting things of like to do this at scale. What is the recurring model? Because if you're in the services world, like project-based one-off is the worst grind in the world. You need some kind of recurring model.
I think like for stuff like that, it can work. You just you need to price it, correctly. And so there is just going into what Richard was saying. There is a world where it could be a subscription fee so that you constantly get up to date. Knowing what the latest and greatest is, and because like presumably the people in this company are working with other companies, like they're getting those sorts of updates, and so the knowledge and staying ahead of the curve is worth the fee. But the other thing is like I think that choosing what kind of industry, you probably want to start with the places where there's a huge profitability right away, right? And so if you go into an organization and say, hey, we can save you $40 million, right? Like you could think about all sorts of business models where because the change is going to result in something that big, you could just charge, less. And like maybe the model isn't scaling to 100,000 customers. Maybe the model is, you want 100, right? Yeah. But for those 100, like each one of them might pay you, $1 million a year. And so
yeah.
It just depends. I think there's variations of this for different types.
Exactly. I love what you just said because on our show, we always say depending on who you are, how you penetrate the market is different. example is I put a notice on one of my kids. He graduated comp sci, AI, right? And two people from two major consulting firms, Accenture, Deloitte, both reached out to me. And they both head up the innovations for these. And I'm not sure if it's global, but they're heading up this space, right? And they're saying we're looking for people who are interested in AI, programmers, developers, because they are trying to attack this market at the $40 million level, right? And so if you were someone at Accenture and you have these relationships and you have that experience, and you're now, like many people coming out of these companies, strip away, start their own company, and then target, beautiful. Call Stewart,
Totally.
you know, there's your core
Yeah.
competency, that's your assets. Now you could take that to penetrate the market, right?
So I have to say, I agree with Aydin that it is $1 billion opportunity.
Or more.
And or more. And one of the first things that came to mind when you started talking about this, I was like, well, why wouldn't a Deloitte just do it, or why wouldn't a
But this
McKinsey
is
or whatever?
the disruptor to Deloitte,
And this is
though.
this is the
new
disruptor.
Deloitte. Yeah,
And
or
that's
Deloitte
what-
will try and buy it.
100%. I think their disadvantage is their model of billing, their model of
100%,
charging.
yeah.
Exactly.
So if you can come to the table and use AI yourself to kind of automate as much of this business as you can, and you have a subscription-based model that's maybe tied to revenue. Based on your revenue, that's how we charge you. And AI is always a moving target. So the team that you're working with, they're doing a project. I think that's their mistake, right? If they're coming in and saying like, there are projects associated with what we do, and maybe those are upcharges, but really, the new ChatGPT just came out. What's on the roadmap for the next one? What's Google doing on this front? What's Gemini doing on this front?
You know, it's very interesting because there's so many different consulting models. One of the ones that's interesting, we once worked with this consultant, and basically they straight up told us that, listen, if we come in and we help you, very quickly, we're going to tell you the things you need to do. And like most of the work is right then and there. And so the way that our model works is you're going to commit to a certain amount of time, and you pay us a fee. And on top of that, we get a percentage of the profits, right? Because like they know like the thing that they're going to do for us is so impactful. And they'll take 10% of the profits, right? So I think there's an opportunity to just really
100%. I
go
love that
for
model.
I love that.
like those sorts of things. But again, that's not a scale. That's not like let's go do 100,000 customers.
Yeah.
That's something that's a little bit more purposeful.
I love that model. I just find it's hard to get customers to agree to that model because their cost. I know. I mean, look, I work with a lot of companies on the e-commerce front, like large B2B companies, to help them sort of digital transformation in commerce. I don't like to use e-commerce. It's commerce. And a lot of times I'm like, look, I am so confident that you don't even have to pay me a consulting fee. I just want a percentage of the uplift that you tie directly to me. And most of them are like, I don't think I can get that approved. Yeah.
So it's interesting. Like I think for a lot of stuff like this, like when you're doing like that kind of work, it's almost like being more expensive, being more exclusive, not trying to oversell, having limited bandwidth. Like I think like those sorts of things actually get more people to want to. So you're right. It takes like the right type of founder to be able to like sell in that type of way. The other thing I wanted to add is that the reason that you need an external consultancy and like why this is actually super important is because, like you said, Deloitte isn't going to change themselves because they have all these like inherent ways of functioning. That's literally the case for every single company.
100%.
Like most of these ideas are going to disrupt the jobs of the individual people doing that type of work. Everything from like software development to marketing, like literally everything, right? It affects everything. So you actually need a third party to come help with these sorts of things to help reinvent
100%. And something we were talking about just before the show, Graham, the traditional model of coaching, for example, is very much the same as the traditional model to selling professional services. But then you look at like the coaches that are finding tremendous success and scaling big time, they're doing group coaching and master classes, and they're producing content that everyone can, right? So like the model of that is changing. And if you can apply that to services, which I don't think has been done properly yet,
Yeah.
you apply it to services where you're using AI to automate a lot of the low-end tasks. You're creating value that's beyond, you get access to, like getting access to the expert is like the add-on or the bonus. But it's like you're creating so much value that customers just need to have this service.
Yeah.
right? I think that's the key. I need to understand what that looks like, but that's the key.
Yeah, but you know the other thing, I mean, you talk about coaching, right? Like there's many different types of coaching services. There are people who build coaching businesses that you know have a bunch of coaches and they train them and so on and so forth. And like recently, I started working with a new coach recently, and so I went to market. Like I really explored what was available, and there is a wide range. Like you can get people that charge anywhere from a few $100s a session for like a 1 hour session to people who charge $5,000 or more for 1 hour. And so like there's this kind of like broad range, and I think for this type of a business, like the vector of attack is definitely to try and attack the people who will pay more, because like the profit margin is so big. The other thing I was going to say is like the other trend I'm noticing a lot, which is also why this is relevant, is that it used to be that as founders, you used to care a lot about, oh, I have so many people working at my company, because that's a sign of success, because you can kind of, if you have that many people, that must mean certain things. Yeah. Headcount is no longer a thing that you show off about, right? And so
Quite the opposite, actually. Yeah.
You hear,
I'm making this much money with this little people.
Totally. And so the other thing is that if you look at, I'm sure some of this stuff is hyperbolic, but you hear Sam Altman going on a podcast and saying, I have a group chat running and we're making bets on when the first $1 billion company with one person is going to be founded, right? And so it kind of changes your idea of like what companies are about. So the reason I think this is so transformative is because it's almost like the way that we will build companies will change. And all of us are running on the old way, right? The old way. And this is like a new beginning. And to expect that we're going to run the current ship and figure out how to reinvent ourselves. And everyone's going to do it, not just the software companies that are maybe a little bit more tech savvy, but like all the other businesses, the real economy, right?
Yeah.
Someone has to go in and help make those things happen. And
I just want to build on something. Sorry, Graham. I just want to build on one thing that you touched on at the beginning of what you were saying. I think the opportunity, if you want to build $1 billion business and not a niche consultancy, I think now you build a model where there's like, it's a subscription-based service where a mid-market company can afford to hire you for access to content and maybe group sessions. And then the higher end companies, the ones that are much bigger and they want to access, like one of the guys who is an expert at AI, right? Like Stuart, then they're paying $5,000 per session. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's sort of like a menu where you can start to scale people up and down that list.
Build on that a little bit, because I think one of the things that's interesting to me, and I don't know if you guys have seen the same in your companies, but like when you mandate like you're going to go integrate AI in all the different departments, like the amount of AI content to consume
it's massive. Yeah, it's huge.
Insane.
Inconceivable. Like you can
can't
have
do
the
it.
best AI people in your company spend all of their time and they're still behind by days every time you meet with them.
And it's changing like hourly.
And so what I think is interesting about Aydin's idea is I don't know that the money's in the execution. Like I think there's potentially a secondary opportunity for the doing the middle market services side, but there's a lot of money in having one or two of those key experts in each industry, accounting, finance, recruiting, customer service, whatever, that live strategy.
So you're like the Forrester or the Gartner of AI.
You guys can stop watching the AI market.
Right? That
we
scales.
will meet with you every week and tell you, here are the tools to use. Here are the things that we're using, and here's the playbook. Here are 5 firms that'll go in.
Oh, I like that.
You pay us $100,000 for this
I
call.
love that. That's such a good.
I like that. It's
know,
like the Forrester or
it's
Gartner.
so true. So again, I'll tell you what happens in my life. So I have some friends who call them AI forward, right? AI forward CEOs. So we get together to make sure we have so much FOMO of what we might miss out on that we meet, and that's what we do. Here's what I uncovered in the last month. Here's what you uncovered. And then a lot of us, pay subscription services to people who do that. Like there is like this one guy, like the AI architect, he calls himself, and like you can pay subscription fees, and they create a video, they send you information, they keep you up to date. But I think, again, so this is a little bit of the danger, which is like you could go learn a bunch of things, right? Like, but it's also the execution, and it's change management. Like that's the hard part. Someone has to take that. But I agree with you that there's like multiple pieces.
Yeah.
This business can have multiple layers, and like you said, you're now mixing in the idea of what Forrester does and Deloitte does. It's like a new type of company that
Totally
mixes them
and
all.
we would leverage AI to produce a lot of this content. Right?
One of the things I think is interesting is like I think you hit it in the, like there's an opportunity in the change management. I'm not as convinced as like, and I mean we build custom software all the time. Like that's our core business. We get pitched all the time to build custom AI tools. We turn a lot of that work down, largely because we see the idea. We also see roadmaps of like publicly available things, and I'm like, you're going to dump a ton of money to be behind in 3 months. Don't build this custom. You don't need to. Here are the things to play with. And I think what's interesting is the change management, the people management is the big thing. I don't know if it's the AI implementation. There's enough product companies chasing 1,000 iterations of models and tools and SaaS platforms. It's more about the strategy and then the change management of the integration versus necessarily like AI engineers and building custom. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
sure.
I think there's a lot of
I think
validation.
there's, we had lunch with Martin Cloak, and really amazing discussion because he used AI for the last year to figure out customer success and to lean it and 20x or whatever x the efficacy of his customer success. Right? He technically be now a fly team that can just fly into a company and implement that for a hefty fee. Right? So from an AI implementation, I think there could be value there. But I agree the focus is not on the actual technology side. It's now that I've showed you how my process of leveraging AI to get to this kind of efficient where I am today, the efficiency of it, the optimization. There will be another solution in 2 weeks. So it's not actually about the technology. It's how do we create this very fluid workforce with a way of thinking, with a way of solving problems, because it's going to move at lightning speed. I think that's where after us meeting with Martin, you could see the way his brain is thinking. He says level 1 AI, level 2 AI. He's working on level 3 AI right now, which is like that speed of adopting and creating automation and efficiency within all parts of his business now, right? So I think I agree with you. It's not totally about the technology, but that's the entry point.
Yeah.
The entry point is a whole change of management, technology, infrastructure, SOPs, even headcount.
Oh,
even,
everything.
right?
It's funny. I met one of my another peer CEO that I was meeting with was talking about how they took all of the RFPs that they had ever submitted, wrote some internal things to just train on that, and before they used to submit maybe call it like 2 RFPs a week. Now they do 10, and like most of the work is done by AI. Right. And so it's just like these are the sorts of things that are all of a sudden possible.
Yeah.
Totally. But to really add value for a customer, for a company, for a fellow to kind of sign up for the service, you need to be producing content of real value, right?
Yes.
And give them access to pay a premium so that they can, I don't know if you've ever been a customer of Forrester's or Gartner or whatever and see how they work. But essentially you pay a subscription fee, which is not cheap, right?
Yeah, isn't it
to
like
get access
40,
to content.
50,000
Oh yeah,
or something
40,
like this?
50 grand. And what it gives you is access to a whole bunch of content that is cutting edge in their space, whatever space that you're interested in. It's like B2B
people.
commerce.
Yeah.
But you get access to their thought leaders for very limited time. So it's like, hey, your package includes 1 hour a month with our foremost thought leader on this subject, right? That's what you're building. I mean, this is what this business would be, except it would be an AI-centric, AI first, and it doesn't have all of the chains and legacy, business models that come with all these other companies.
Total digression,
That's how you
but
compete.
the term AI first is going to be existing just for a small period of time.
Yeah.
Until it's just a software company.
It is.
And I mean, it's interesting. You said like you think every company will have the like chief AI officer. I almost think the chief AI officer will be a non-existent role in the next 2 years because any officer level role in a company that doesn't have AI integrated is going to be toast. Like they're not going to exist in that kind of leadership.
Yeah, so maybe not chief AI officer, but like a head of AI or someone like really holistically like managing those things. I think so. This is the whole, we overestimate what happens in 2 years and underestimate what happens in 10.
Yeah.
I think like. I would argue the Kindle is an excellent device, but still people are reading physical books, right? Like I think it's far superior. You can carry all your books with you at all times. But, we're still there. So I still think that adoption will take some time. Yeah. And, the disruption is coming for every single company, but, some companies probably before other ones.
Totally. But here's what's really nice about this business. Let's just focus on the business for a second, is the people who are making the purchasing decisions and signing the check for the subscription are the people who don't know the deep technical way that this stuff works. There are people who are trying to run their businesses, grow their businesses. They've got sales targets. They've got shareholders to report to. They've got FOMO. And these are the people that are like, please teach me. So on my next earnings call, I sound like I know what I'm talking about. Right. And so I don't think it'll be hard. It's not a hard sale.
Mm-hmm. It's not a hard sale.
If you put in, so if I don't know if it's time yet to pivot to how would we go about building this? Like, what would the steps look like? But once you've got this going, I think it's a super easy sale.
Yeah. I think we identified the problem. How about taking a shot at who do you think is the best market to penetrate? I know earlier I said depends who takes on the idea, but if it was any one of you,
look, I was at a B2B conference, B2B commerce conference in Chicago recently, and I can tell you that in general, distributors and manufacturers are really behind when it comes to technology. Mm-hmm. But the number one topic at this event was, how is AI going to impact our business? So I don't think there's a vertical you can look at that isn't super worried or super, like, everybody's thinking about it. Everybody wants to have an answer. That's why I think it wouldn't be hard to get to $1 billion business. Because if you've got the right content and you understand how to present it in a way that people can consume it, and it's changing with the times, because man, like, you're right. I read content and then like the next day it's old news. Like there's something new that's come out and some other company, and I hear about new, unicorn companies that are producing the next version of whatever.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to say is I like businesses that also have backup plans like built into them, right? So the nice thing is, like, worst case scenario, you build this thing and you get a bunch of experts, work with a bunch of customers, you're exposed to a ton of ideas, and you either parachute some of these ideas, like stuff that you built can become other products. Like, this is a thing that can morph into many other things over the course of time. So I think like the chances of, like, this is, I don't want to say it's a no risk idea, but like if you can get that first customer, right, and you probably find another one and another one, and worst case scenario, this becomes like a product company, after that.
Worst case scenario, that's a pretty good scenario, but yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Is there an area of your business that if someone had that full expertise that could come in and say, hey, if you come in and help me with this part,
I see. Great question.
Hire you in a minute.
Yeah.
Like, what operational component is it? I'd say development is the last one I would touch. Like maybe accounting first, or customer success, customer service, sales.
Yeah. So I mean, I would I'd probably go to whatever is the highest cost area. Mm-hmm. Like I'd probably, if there was an opportunity for higher revenue, would probably like lean towards that first. Yeah. The places where we spend the most amount of money are like generally on people and advertising, right. Paying Google and Facebook. And so, those are the areas where we spend the most amount of money. But if we had someone that came in and said, for example, hey, we have like an AI creative solution for your, meta, advertising campaigns, and like, here's how it works. It's going to, we have all these like AI generated voice actors and so on and so forth, and we're going to create the ads. It's going to self-optimize. The ads will build themselves, and like
right.
And and if I could get that before
that's
my
another show, by
competitors,
the way.
Yeah,
that's another show. That's another idea.
But this is exactly it. Martin went down customer success, and it proved it was incredible returns for him when he figured that out.
20x. I mean, really, he's like the efficient. He was able to 20x the efficiency.
And for us, I'm using the same playbook I did with the dentist. So you talk about $5,000 an hour. That's how much they were paying me. It's $5,000 an hour. but I did it how we're doing with our podcast, right? We are going to niche down. We're going to solve our own problem. And we're going to show how the moment we launch our podcast within 6 months, fingers crossed, right, is we deliver the value that we can monetize on, right? And I have a whole system that we're experimenting right now. And imagine going to a podcaster and his or her main problem is, I'm fucking busy working 24 hours a day trying to just manage content and manage my funnels. And here we have a solution that's going to basically cut the fat and 20x your email list, 10x your revenue. And why? Because we did it for our own company. And they have an audience that they could monetize on. So that's my audience. It's not like a fresh podcaster, although it would help. But anyone who's been around doing it for a while, maybe the Super Managers podcast, who knows, can suddenly take our system and instantly 10x monetization.
Would
right?
sign up for that in a minute.
And then,
why wouldn't I?
And then some founder would say, hey, I wanna do what Aydin did. I want to start my own podcast too. Our fly team's gonna come in and charge them whatever we need to charge them because they're operating at that level.
Yeah.
Or charge them a percentage of revenue. That's what I've
But
been.
this stuff, this stuff really works because what ends up happening is, because I've experienced this type of consultancy, maybe not in AI, but in other areas of our company. Like, we have super smart people. They're great at what they do. The challenge for all of us is we get tunnel vision because we keep doing the same things. And sometimes bringing that external person who's seen a lot of other things, just brings enough external perspective, gets our juices flowing, and then we tackle problems in different ways. We've done that in growth marketing, we've done that in product growth. The external consultant can actually add a tremendous amount of value.
So sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, and let's say if you identify that the biggest area where AI is required that's driving me nuts is my podcast, then we would be the ideal fit. If not, we're not the ideal fit. You weren't on the call. Were you on the call with the last YouTube? You weren't there. But
the last masterclass?
Liam Martin is in our group, and he shared about his process for an area of his business, and he literally removed a whole day of work just in AI, and it's in the area of content and writing and copy and all that. And so he was sharing it with our group because there was some resistance mindset that, but is it my voice? And it's oh yeah, here's 2 copy. Choose which one I wrote and choose the one that ChatGPT wrote. We couldn't figure it out, right? And then that led to another entire process with the agent, ChatGPT agent, stuff like that, and a whole other discussion. But what's really interesting is he found that that sucked the most of his time, and the moment it freed up, the rest of the business grew. All right.
So we all agree this is a massive opportunity.
Yep.
Do we agree that the approach is sort of like a hybrid, let's say a Forrester Gartner kind of subscription-based service with a consultant as a starting point? Any for this kind of business? I'm just curious if you guys think that, or
it probably starts with a consultant that creates content, and maybe builds it up into subscription service, but also does work. I think because you have to start to do the brand building, and so it probably starts with content as well.
Something like that, yeah. Because obviously, once this thing launches, you're going to learn from what your customers want, what the industry wants, and what you can automate, and to figure out all of this stuff. So we talked about the type of person, but that could start this. But what does the minimum group look like? What does the minimum size startup team look like? And what are the key sort of components of that startup team who would take a company like this to get it going?
Again, so it could start with one person. One way that I might approach it, if I was actually going to do this, is I would look at all publicly traded companies that issue their quarterly reports, and anytime someone says, because of AI, we did all these sorts of things, and there's big numbers involved, I would perk up. Try and figure out who is there, what did they do, and could I recruit those people? That's probably if you're not that person who led that initiative at that company, maybe you're the person who could start this. But if you're not that person, you want to find those people, again, we're going to start seeing a lot of this. This is going to be a thing we're going to see in all earnings calls going forward.
Oh yeah, over the next 12 months.
Yeah,
there'll be
every
tons
time
more.
there's a big number, take note, figure out who it is, work on recruiting them. Maybe you recruit them and they help you on a part-time basis as you scale up. And yeah, I mean, something like that could be a good approach to recruit.
Yeah, I think I'm building on what you said is like content is a big piece of it. Case studies is going to be another big one. Like as soon as you can get one example of like, hey, we came into this industry to had this impact, like that's going to help you blow up on the growth. And yeah, finding those key people.
So day one, I totally would take a very niched approach. So day one, I would definitely say recruit a couple of people who are like brilliant, who've done it before, who have solved, let's say, reducing customer service costs significantly, right? They've done it. That becomes your wedge, and you're going to market with that. And you're telling people, if you pay a subscription fee, we can share with you all of the tools, what's happening in that space, how we've done it, all of that stuff. And if you pay $5,000 an hour, you can actually talk to that guy, right? Or whatever that looks like. So that is day one. And then from there, you can start identifying what the next thing is and where to branch out to, right?
Yeah, I definitely think at the enterprise level, I mean, I'm going to use Martin because he's just top of mind. He could just focus on that one area of the business, customer success. And there are enough businesses out there that he could just stay in that lane because he understands it so well.
That's your $1 billion company right there.
Yeah.
Just in customer.
Just that alone, right? In our case, it's like top of funnel type stuff, right? And so, we can win in that space, right? We always kind of do this or our best in our shows, which is there's this enterprise $1 billion, but we also want to say there's also room for someone who wants to create a couple $100,000,
A lifestyle
$1 million
business, yeah.
lifestyle business, and that's another founder that can come in, right? And how would I approach this? I would approach this, and all my kids. So we have AI days now. One of my kids got in trouble for using AI in school, and I got an email from the teacher, and when I asked him what he did, I'm like, dude, that's awesome. Let's do more of that shit at home, right? So now we have AI days at home. In fact, it was 2 days a week. Now every day we're playing with AI. I can even show you a text message right now where my son goes, yo, I came with this idea, and plus AI, plus this. He's so proud of it, right? And including my 11-year-old, he's freaking having a blast with it, right? So just to go back to how would I start if you guys were just looking at a smaller scale business, is start playing with AI, but play it in a space that you really care about, right? My son's into animation, anime, and all this stuff. Hence, for those who know what this is, okay, is Haikyuu. It's a Japanese anime, a volleyball one. And so my son is like really into playing with AI and improving his ability to create anime and cartoons, right? And he's going to be ahead of me within a month because I'm playing with him, but now I'm supporting all the other kids. So he's just in a hyper focus. So if you have an area of interest, just start playing with it, screen record even, talk about it, and share it, because this really is a time where a wave you got to catch. I even sent a text to my kid. I said, in 95, the internet came in, I caught it, I made millions. Then Bitcoin and blockchain came, I missed it. I missed in hundreds of millions. Now AI is billions for everyone, right? And I said, don't miss this. I said this to all the kids, like within a week ago, right? So I think anyone really can start it. It may look like a $100 million business or a side hustle, but it literally can transform to $1 billion business.
One thing I would say on that, especially on the small scale, is I think there's a massive, massive opportunity to look at a category of businesses that aren't the enterprise, that are like local electricians, plumbers, drywallers. What can you do in those businesses that automate customer service, tickets, inventory, like basic stuff that they are not using technology for today, that you can transform businesses? Because that's where you get 100,000 customers. It's a very different approach than selling to enterprise, but it's a very different person that I think that would lead that.
Yeah. So
100%.
Great business idea. I think many ways to approach to solving it, different niches we could easily target. And the best thing is, I think entering this is a piece of cake.
Well, it doesn't need software. You don't need to develop some piece of code. You don't the capital requirement is very minimal.
I didn't want to say that because of the growth of AI and the speed of it, I find people's mindset is, I'm willing to experiment. Like I need
Totally.
to. So you don't even have to say, I got to figure it out with a case study. It's like, listen, I did this and I did this and it's working. I haven't fully proven it to like revenue growth and sustainability, but that's already ahead of most people.
Something I've experienced over the years, like running a consulting company, is a lot of times I'd be in a meeting, people are like, you're an expert. And I realized being an expert means you just need to know a little bit more than the other person.
Ahead. That's it.
And as soon as you know a little bit more, they look at you as an expert. So we're in a space that's still young enough that it wouldn't be hard to be seen as an expert because you just know a little bit more in a specific field or a specific niche than everyone else.
Yeah. And I want to share, it's not about age, but let's say you're young in terms of where your entrepreneur career
heart,
is.
right.
Yeah, your heart. I remember I met this guy named Alfred J. 1978 or something, and he was running the software business. And he said to me at that time, he said, young people have so much more power today, 1997, 8, than young people years ago. And he gave an example. He said, years ago, when you look at leaders, there are all these older, experienced individuals, right? And they call the shots and they lead the team. He said his life changed the day an older CEO in his mid-50s went to someone in their mid-20s and said, I need your help. I don't know what I did, but my screen is fucking blank, right? And that's when he saw the power of young people, right? And so young people have really people with this knowledge. And I think if you're out there and you're looking at the space, then you can get to that value
100%.
very, very quickly. Because people are afraid. They're living in fear right now. Right?
And we've all touched on this a little bit, and I don't want to go down this alley because it's a whole other show, I think. But the impact of AI on the way that people, the education system, like the value of university, how that changes, like all of that is shifting tremendously. Like when my daughter asked me, like, hey, do I have to go to university for future success? The answer 20 years ago was like, it will improve your odds significantly. The answer today is like, I don't know. You know, like,
Wrong person to ask you.
Yeah, I'm not sure anymore, right? Like it's changed a lot. Our system, and really, governments are notorious for this, and I do blame them, even though some people say it's not their fault. But they're very slow to shift, right? Like we're still acting like we did in the 50s. And so much has changed. So like most of the systems we have in place, everything from daylight savings time to the education system, to everything is founded in like the way things used to be 100 years ago.
Yeah.
And we really haven't evolved. And so I agree with you. I mean, people who do see this as an opportunity and evolve with it are going to be, it's a huge disruptor. And I totally agree with something Aydin said, because I work with a lot of geeks. I consider myself to be a geek, but I work with a lot of developers, and generally speaking, they are the most like resistant to this.
They're skeptical. Yeah.
Totally. They're the most resistant. I'm like, dude, like I won't need you in 6 months because I can just tell AI to write that code. And they're, no, it can't, And so like the more you're in denial about all of this, the more it's going to hurt.
The number of conversations I've had with super technical people that are like, it can't do that. It can't. And I'm like, here's a demo I found on Twitter. Like, what do you think? And they're like, oh shit. And then they go look at it and like, wow, it really can do that. Why am I telling you this? Like, this is your industry. Like,
Like, have you guys seen the level 1 video on YouTube where they like connect ChatGPT with a robot?
Oh yeah.
Like, even I, who consider myself to be really at the forefront of change and embracing change, was like, we're 10 years away from that happening. And it's like, holy crap, it's happening.
Have you played with AutoGPT much?
No.
So like AutoGPT is an open source configuration for ChatGPT for like larger projects. We have a configuration where we will feed it a contract scope of work for a website. It then spawns mini GPTs that's like a project manager, a product manager, a designer, 2 web devs, and a QA, and they all like converse and they run through the project scope and they check each other and then they publish and then they test the code and iterate on it.
What the fuck?
I can take a scope of work for a landing page and in a day with 0 human intervention publish a site.
Holy
It
cow.
dies on mobile, like we cannot do mobile, but like it builds its own software team, it assigns its own roles, and it just goes. It's
That's amazing.
freaky.
That's
So
amazing. I
let's-
want to look into that
Can't
today.
do complicated stuff, but like
just
watching it.
But
like,
it's just
go,
the
I need
beginning.
all
I mean,
these
look, we're
jobs, I
still
need
at the
all these
beginnings.
frames, and it like sets the personas for
Yeah,
each of
we're
them,
still
and,
at the
like,
beginnings.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So let's land a bit of a playbook here. Like there's the
Yeah.
whole thing here.
But that's the thing, right? Like you hear something like that, and if you're building any sort of company, you have to imagine like what kinds of things like that can you do that you're currently using people to do, and that you don't necessarily need to, or you can just like, expand the impact of the people that you do have. And so this is
So it's
Agreed.
funny you brought up. This is another business idea we need. So the good thing is ChatGPT is going to identify all these parking lot ideas that we're going to park for now and talk later. But the other side of the equation is an opportunity, which is most people feel they will be obsolete. And so how do we support them in maintaining value and employment value and all that kind of stuff and in this day and age, right? So if someone helps that transition for so many people, it's like truck drivers, 5 years ago or 10 years ago when they heard self-driving trucks are going to be the next thing, and there's like thousands and thousands of trucks all over North America. Like they were shitting their pants, right? And some people cared for them. They want to help upskill, right? So that's another one. But let's kind of land the plane to be respectful of everyone's time. Love the idea. I know you. We could do a tag team. On this one.
co-landing.
Yeah,
A
co-landing.
co-landing.
Co-landing. My co-pilot here. But love the idea. I think I love the multiple approach to in terms of different audience and target you can serve. I think we all agree that entering the market through content and community is a really important part. You don't have to actually have the final solution. You have to be 2-3 steps ahead and have one of your own full implementation.
Totally, you just got to be a little bit
enter it.
ahead. Exactly.
Yeah. And really focus on that community because I think it's where you could drive an endless amount of funnel and your brand and expert positioning.
And what I'd add to that is for something like this to really work and scale, you can't come to the table with the traditional models of consulting and service delivery, right? Like it has to be unique so that it can scale and that you can add value so it's not a proportional like, hey, if we have this many consultants, now we can generate this much revenue, right?
Yeah.
Aydin, it was so awesome having you on the show.
Yeah,
really,
this
I
was
love
really
this.
Fun.
I
was
love
fun.
this.
You made the idea even better.
Right?
I love
Like
the iteration.
I loved it. Graham, thank you for awesome having you on. I really hope that somebody's going to run with this because it really is, I think, $1 billion opportunity. And it's just the beginnings of what is coming in the world of AI.
Yeah.
So thanks, guys.
Thank you very much, guys.
We'll have you
Peace
both
out.
on again.